Hello and welcome to Off Track. I'm your host, Dave Neal, and today my guest is our old friend Michael Howarth. We got together for a chat a couple of weeks ago before the sad passing of Keith Farmer. We send our sincere condolences to Keith's family and friends at this most difficult of times. I last saw Keith at Alton Park in September, where he was helping out his fellow countryman, young Jamie Lyons. The sparkle was still in his eyes and the smile as wide as ever. Another great fella, sadly gone. We're still working hard behind the scenes on a relaunch of a bigger and better off-track podcast, so just bear with us a little while longer, especially while our new co-host heads off to the other side of the world for 6 weeks, bless him. And we're also still working with HMY Customs on a new logo that's looking pretty damn awesome. The only thing we'll say about our new co-host for now is that he's a current rider. We met up at a secret undisclosed location last week to chat about the show, what he can bring to it, and the fun and games we can have, and I can't tell you how excited we are to announce him in the new year. We'll still have the regular guests like Howie dropping in as he brings his own angle on life. Steve Day and Greg Haynes have also agreed to drop by to cast their British and World Superbike views, and to have added input every week from someone who's still walking the walk is just what we need on the show. And yes, you'll still have me blathering on too. We're heading to Motorcycle Live at the NEC in Birmingham this coming Saturday and Sunday, so be sure to say hello before we pounce on unsuspecting victims. They're guests, not victims. This is a plug, but it's also a public service announcement. There are still tickets available, so head over to motorcyclelive.co.uk/ticket information and get your discounted tickets. But the other good thing about getting the tickets in advance is the parking. This is the important bit. If you get your tickets in advance, you can add parking for £10 a day. If you don't, it's £16.75. So even with my poor maths, that does your pocket a bit of a favour, so make sure you book in advance. Remember to check out the socials on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, as well as YouTube, where we've populated the channel with the most recent shows and some older ones as well. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's Howie. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to Off Track. I'm your host, Dave Neal, and welcome to the commercial in Hull Syke, just north of Burnley. And you know who's going to be with me if we're in the pub in Burnley. Howie, welcome back, mate.
Thank you very much for having me, dude. It seems like a lifetime ago. We were only across the road at the beginning of the season, having a quick catch-up and a chat. I believe we even came over here afterwards and won the quiz.
I spanked the quiz for you.
Spanked the quiz and won me 8 pints. You did. So we're back here at my local that is no longer my local.
Nice.
Strangely enough, I live miles away now, but I still come here fairly often and see the old gang. But yeah, no, it's great to be back on.
Good, mate. It's good to have you. It's a bit of an impromptu one. I wasn't expecting it. So it's nice to see you because you've been secreted away down in Runcorn in Cheshire now. You're a bit further away. You've gone down the posh end of the northwest.
Yeah, we're not actually allowed to call it Runcorn.
Oh, really?
That's my missus that says that. We live in Cheshire now. We're part of the Cheshire set.
That's all you need to know. I live in Cheshire. That's it.
It's a little part of Runcorn called Daresbury, and then even smaller, the little hamlety type thing we live in is called Norton. So there's a bike reference. Yeah, but no, if you're in front of my girlfriend Emily, we don't say Runcorn. It's actually within 30 seconds of where they have cream fields.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, we came away to Cadwell this year for the bank holiday weekend.
Same weekend, yeah.
To racing. And we'd been given these free tickets for Creamfields because of the noise pollution thing. So they send it round to keep us all those lot happy. And never got to use them because BSB were on. And there's no way I would ever miss Cadwell over a load of ruddy dance music that goes...
It's not our style, kid, is it?
No.
It's not our music, that. Too old for that. Even you are.
I mean, we don't drink bitter yet.
I do.
But I'm way over dance music.
I'm telling you now, £3.25 in my local for a John Smith's. I'm having that all day long. I can be pissed on a tenner.
Well, still as tight as cramp, lad, I see you.
You're not wrong. Learn from the best.
Yeah, so like you said, it was a little bit of an impromptu thing for us. I told you I was coming over yesterday, and we said, we'll have a bit of a catch-up.
In a beer.
I suppose we're going to be talking about the season that went on in MotoGP and BSB and bits of that.
Yeah, so. I think so. I mean, the last time I saw you on a podcast, you were down in Coventry. We've got to mention that.
Oh, well, yes.
We've got to mention that.
It was obviously it ended up being the second to last one of those for now. If Dominic picks it up, which I hope he does something and rises it from the ashes. You know, unfortunately because of what happened to Chrissy, which we'll get to later on as we're talking about the season, which was devastating for us all. But you know, it's one of them things. was doing what he loved. He was doing what he loved, and we've got to all take solace in that. We can't.
100%.
We can't. You know, he had a mega send off, and I went and did the podcast with Chrissy. I called you a rival.
You did,
and
colleague.
Chrissy said, "No, we're not. We're partners or something."
Colleagues.
That's it. He called them colleagues. In Chrissy's own inevitable way, there's no such thing as rivalry. We're colleagues, we're friends.
We're all fishing from the same pot.
Yeah, it was different.
And then Dom declared his undying love to Jennifer.
He did. I think he called me. He loved me. He wanted to come to my wedding. I'd only just met him, and we didn't really get to the roots of it because we were talking about so much. But as I'd said on their podcast, I'd wanted to go on it for a while. They'd never had people on that had asked to go on it, but I had messaged them and I'd said,
"Oh yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? The black book."
Yeah, the black book. But I'd said to Chris, how are you getting me on this? Bloody blah. I've done a few podcasts with you, and they'd heard them, and he was like, "Yeah, we really want to get you on." So I was one that slipped through, but I'd always thought that they'd not ask me, not because I'm a nobody now. Oh, I never was anybody, but because I did the North Yorkshire Road Racing Association, I did a Christmas thing for that and handed the awards out one year because they'd literally, Matt Roberts pulled out last minute and they'd asked everybody else. They'd scraped the barrel. Nobody else could make it. And they phoned me up and asked me to go and do it. And mine, at the time, which is the way that everyone speaks about, men talking about the mental health and things like that. I really wasn't in a good place to go and do it at the time. But I went up and I had a couple of beers and I didn't really know what was going on. They'd said, basically, we've got an audience and we want you to talk about things you've done in racing and hand these awards out and go from there. And I didn't realise it was full of racers. So I thought I'd just made a complete knob of myself. Just talking about
the first time.
Well, exactly. But Dom was there. And he didn't really talk to me on the evening. Chrissy had said a few hellos and stuff. And this is a good few years ago, mind. So I thought they'd not got me on because Dom had gone, "I'm not having that dick on this." And then Dom, when I got down there, I was like, "Dom, do you remember me doing the thing?" And he went, "No." Why? He went, "Because I was absolutely mortal." I went, "Oh, well, this is why I didn't think you'd had me on." And he had no recollection. So I'd spent all this time worrying.
Hang on, Dom doesn't know what he did yesterday.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Busy chopping trees down.
And yeah, it was a bit more. It was joy. I was really happy now the way it went because it was just comedy and humour and taking the piss and I'm so glad it was that. There'd have been scope to do a few more. Like I always leave a little carrot dangling for you so you'll have me back on. So it was one of them. So no,
You're always welcome on. You know that.
Yeah, I'm extremely honoured and privileged to have got on there, and I'm obviously extremely honoured and privileged for you to have me back.
Just slightly less so.
You what?
Just slightly less so.
No. As I nod, you can't see me nodding, but yes. Yeah. So no, we've done that, and then just get through myself bit and then I'm doing the motorcycle stars that I'd mentioned on there's the buying and selling of the track bikes.
Absolutely. How's that going?
It's going very well.
Good.
We're branching out into doing sales of other people's bikes where we'll come and collect them and strip them down to the bare bones and rebuild them and sell them on for other people. And moved into the road bike category slightly because we want the track bikes we're doing are for the lower budget. But I promise you it will be the best bike it can be at that price because I pull them apart and I build it as if that thing's going to race the day after. There's 3 or 4 days of work goes into every bike. And yeah, it's just something a bit different and it's working really rather well, I have to say.
Do people get hold of you through your Facebook and Twitter and things like that?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. If anybody is interested at all, just get hold of me through my Facebook, add me on Facebook and we can have a talk. We've been in pit bikes up from Devon and the back arse end of Wales last week and we take them up and we get them ready for sale. And the thing is then, because they're in a bit of a showroom, it saves that person having to deal with someone coming and messing and we'll take all the messes and there's no charge. So we agree a price with that person and we put our bit of commission on and hopefully happy days. And the thing is now with the way the economy is, the cheaper end of the bikes are still selling because people don't want to completely miss out on riding. It's just that your 35 grand Ducati might be out of reach for the next year or so. So
you're going to think so. That's your heating bill for the winter. Or nappies, one of the two.
Not in our house. We're just putting another extra jumper on. It ain't nowhere near December. There is no heating going on. New baby.
You're not there. That heating's on 21, mate. You know it is. You're not there. She'll turn it down when you get home.
Yeah, bless.
Open the windows quickly.
Yeah, and then I'll quickly plug the fact that we are doing a raffle at the moment. There's about 100 tickets left of 250, £20 a pop to win a 2002 Aprilia Milliar again that I've built from the. It's got full all-ins. It's a proper trick thing. I actually got forced into doing this off my business partner, Rob.
Okay.
Because he kept like, why have you not sold that yet? And I just kept forgetting to advertise it because I was like, I want to keep it. It's a beautiful thing. It's what I started my racing on, but no. So Rob said, to advertise the business a bit, we'll put it out to raffle, and then when we do the draw, we can do a big hoo-ha and get the website going and stuff. So yeah, so that's been me since the end of the season. Yeah, quite still
busy times.
Yeah, fettling motorbikes and having a nice time.
Do you want to revel in your own glory for a minute when we go back to what we did at the start of the year and you made some predictions?
I'm so glad you asked me this.
I thought I'd get it out of the way first. Go on.
To gloat.
What did you say?
I do believe we were having the chat about MotoGP, and this was before they'd even announced that Jack wouldn't be staying with Ducati any longer this year and blah, blah, blah. And I do believe I said to you, I guarantee that at the end of this year, Jack Miller will be going to Red Bull KTM.
You did?
To the factory team. And lo and behold, it really was a few weeks later that Ducati announced they wouldn't be keeping him in Ducati's way that they do. And then he announced he'd be signing for KTM Red Bull. So yes, I did walk around with a somewhat rather large head for a few weeks, and now you've just brought it up. I shall again. But then we have to throw it back to you and say that you did say who was going to win the title.
I did. He was sandbagging for a little while.
Yeah.
Now, bearing Pecco from the start.
Bearing in mind, we are still a few days away from the final round, so he could actually be eating his own words come Sunday.
This is true. What we might have to do a catch-up next week, because this probably won't go out till next week, because I'm technically on holiday this week.
All right.
Well, I say technically on holiday. We're doing some housework, and new logos and all sorts of things are going on with the podcast and what have you. So
you see, I've spoke too soon then. We could have pretended that this was next week, couldn't we? And gone, oh, well done, Pecco.
The off-track time machine. Oh, we could record this in two parts.
Well,
Let's just do the first bit. Yeah. Pecco, what a rider. What a champion. Worthy.
Yes, absolutely.
Hang on. How the hell did Quartararo pull that back? What a worthy champion. Who'd have thought it?
From absolutely nowhere. Absolutely. How did he manage that?
Yep, from the back of the grid.
But then, if you think about it, because of the points that Pecco needs, he only needs 2 to take the title, doesn't he? Can you imagine if something... And because of the way that MotoGP's gone this year, like a lot of the series, as it's been back and forth, at the beginning of the year, if you remember, Pecco couldn't stay on a bike.
No.
And his championship was wrote off, and everybody had wrote him off. And I was thinking, to be fair, the back end of the year normally suits the Yamaha a little bit better, which it just hasn't done this year, because Ducati have covered all the bases, it seems, with their bike now. It could be something as ridiculously interesting. So I'll say, that Pecco could park it on its arse in the first couple of laps. There's 8 Ducatis out there with team orders. If Pecco rejoins the race, he still only needs 2 points to win. We could see a procession of Ducatis somewhat slowing down.
Actually, if you remember last year, was Valencia last year not the first time Ducati had locked out the podium in MotoGP?
I think so.
They were the top 3, weren't they?
Yeah, so they've certainly got the bike to win there. But, like anything can happen. Rossi fell off against Nicky Hayden. So I'm just saying that even if Pecco went down in the first couple of laps, but if he managed to rejoin, he could still win the championship. And how amazing would that be? The first rider
14th, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure that you'll see a lot of Ducatis slowing down and people looking down at the tyres and things, thinking, they have said they're going to be using team orders. It's just one of them interesting twists, and anything could happen, couldn't it?
But what do you reckon about his teammate for next year? Because I thought Jorge Martin was going to be the man to take that mantle, but then they gave it to Bastianini.
Yeah.
Who's decent in his own right.
Yeah, and again, it's just like the twists and turns of MotoGP all year. At some points this year, you were thinking, Martin should be the man that gets it, and then Bastianini's been and won a couple of races and outperformed Martin. So, yeah, I think they did the right thing waiting. I I think once Bastianini was confirmed as the rider, I think his performances have got better, and Jorge Martin's have gone a bit like, well, you know, a bit of a middle.
Understandable in that.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's still the fastest rider over one lap.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you could see when the next big rider change coming around, that Martin may well be off somewhere else. You know, I think. You know, the chances are he could end up on a Honda in a couple of years. You know, Yamaha might pull the finger out because, you know, Morbidelli's been frankly awful.
Awful.
You can't even say, you know, he deserves a chance for next year because he's lucky he's got the deal for next year, and he's lucky that Yamaha got rid of Maverick Vinales the way they did. They will not get rid of Morbidelli just because of all the crap that went on with Vinales. So he's been very lucky, but it really has been awful.
Yes. Do we think his knee's still an issue?
I think it's the knee and the head.
And the head as well, yeah.
He has been getting better over the last couple of rounds, but, you know, he's been nowhere to help Fabio.
Even our man's beating him. Even Cal's come back and beating him as well. And he's had like 3 years off or something.
Unbelievable.
Just turn up, ride it, park it, no problem.
When he went quickest in
FP1.
FP1 or FP2 or something when it was where, and he just, I heard him in an interview after, and he went, I'm not coming back tomorrow. That's me, I'm done. Like, go on, Cal. And he's...
Screenshot that. I'm number one.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, Cal's quite good around Valencia, so but Morbidelli should have been there to back Quartararo up for all the Yamaha's failings.
Well, he's had no support all year, has he?
Yeah, he's had to do it all on his own.
Yeah.
And that's when you've got 8 Ducatis out there. Yamaha need a very, very good number 2 rider. So, you know, they must be thinking about looking for 24.
24, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think we've heard the last of Martin, but I don't think he'll name. I think that the Ducati will keep Bastianini and Pecco for the next couple of years because it'll be a fantastically good rivalry because they're not the closest of friends. Bastianini is very much his own person. That's why he never
was
went
part
to
of the VR46 Academy, wasn't he? And then he went on his own way. He was in the early days, was he not?
I don't think he was. I think he got it offered and he declined it. I'm sure. Again, one of the listeners will fill us in, but I'm pretty sure he always wanted to do it his own way, that means, you know, Pecco's not going to get the support. I'm sure if it came down to the same situation at the end of next year and Pecco needs 2 points to win, Ducati will tell Bastianini. But
you have no choice.
Yeah, but he's a great rival to have within your team. If you don't like your teammate, then you want to beat your teammate, and it spurs you both on. You know, so
hopefully he'll get to grips with the GP22. Well, he'll be on the 23, won't he? Because he'll skip a generation.
Yeah.
So that's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah. Yeah,
because he's monstered the 20. Pardon the expression. He's monstered the 21 because that's the bike that Pecco was so good on.
Yeah.
The 22 took some time to come to the fore, but now it's about ready. But
Bastianini's on the 22.
Is he?
Yeah.
And they gave him the 22. Did I?
They
thought
gave
he was
him
on the 21.
Bastianini's on the Pecco's on the 22.5. Because it never it never became the 23, did it? Because they went back to a different kind of...
Yes.
Used the old engine in the newer chassis and the new thing. Did you see... on Facebook somewhere there was a picture and the back box had been ripped off one of the
old salad box had come out, that massive damper spring.
The spring, yeah, and
the mass damper.
I circled it and put it on Facebook as I said, there you go, there's the mass damper. And then I looked, I'd read up on it quite a bit before for MotoGP when I was working with Fred, but never seen it. So we'd only seen these tuned mass dampers working in skyscrapers and old Formula One cars and things like that. And I put it on, and Josh Brooks and someone else went, is this not the thing that helps the ride-out device for going up and down? And it isn't, because it works on the linkage at the bottom. It's nothing to do with this spring. It was the mass damper. But when Josh asked, because it's Josh Brooks and he's fantastically technical, I thought, oh, bloody hell. And I spoke too soon here. Because I just spoke about this mass damper for years. And then
anybody but Josh.
And I actually felt, I thought... someone else has said the same thing here. I might have got this bloody wrong. So I bottled it and removed the post off Facebook. And then I seen it on a MotoGP tech site and someone had said, there's your mass damper. I was like, oh, yes.
Matt Oxley posted about it, didn't he?
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I didn't see Matt, but so it was the mass damper.
It was the mass damper, yeah. The big spring at the back and... no sandwiches anywhere.
Yeah, no sandwiches anywhere. Yeah, there was pictures of it. I mean, there must be quite a lot of weight in the back of there as well to tune out the damping and such things. Because it's in a big rusty piece of steel, which will have just been weight. And
yes,
it works on vibrations, and it stops the vibration from the rear going to the front that stops the front end chatter. That's why the mass damper was put in the salad box in the first place. Colin Edwards had told me many years ago that Yamaha tried it with no great success because their bike didn't really need it.
Doesn't really suffer.
Yeah, it didn't really suffer, so it was something that they ended up not needing. I mean, we've seen Aprilia may well be using it. Honda look like they may well be using something. They've all gone to a salad box type thing in the rear on the V4s. So yeah, but no, it was interesting to see something so simple, because if anybody wants to look, just Google tune mass damper. It's quite a simple thing, and it just tunes into the vibrations and eliminates them. Yeah, and
look at the results that they've got from it. It's not doing bad, is it? Really, it's done all right with it. So we'll see what comes at Valencia this weekend. Congratulations, Pecco. Commiserations, Fabio, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Hopefully the other way around, because I've got Pecco stickers on the back of my car. I've told them all the time, said all season that it was going to happen. I told Chris Pritchard at the TT that he was going to win. He didn't believe me. Told him he'd been sandbagging. Didn't believe me. He said it was Fabio all the way. Stick to the TT, Chris Pritchard. Tell you now. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Good lad. I like Chris. Have you met Chris?
I don't think so.
Cracking fella. Cracking fella. If you get the chance, it'd be great on a night out. Very, very funny guy.
I don't need anyone for a good night out. I'm trying to behave myself. I'm a father now.
Well, you are.
But yeah, no, the TT will be got to next year. I couldn't go this year because of Emily just having the boy. So his first real holiday, Emily said, we need to go away. We need to go on holiday as a family. And I'm like, don't you worry, love. We're going away for a week in June. And she still hasn't twigged just yet. I mean, I've just grasped myself.
You grasped yourself up now. But yeah.
I'm like, we'll get away in June. And the weather's normally quite good for a couple of days.
It was all right this year. It only rained twice, I think.
Yeah.
It was all right.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably move on to that. I don't think that Glenn Irwin's going to be there.
No.
Next year,
is he?
With his movement to birdies.
No.
He'll be at the Northwest. I'm pretty sure they'll be doing the Northwest because Glenn can...
6 laps in it, the Ducati will stand that.
Do you know what? I don't think it's anything to do with the reliability of the Ducati. I think it's more than capable. I think they'll take a lot of engines. It'll cost a lot of money. So I don't think that's why Birdie do the TT. But I don't think... How many times has the Ducati failed? In Worlds or BSB?
No, that's true.
There's been a lot more blow-ups of the BMWs, or there's been an issue with Yamahas and such like that. Things that people don't see on the TV or watch. There's been a lot of... The BMW struggled a lot with valves and bits of things. I believe the Yamaha was struggling a little bit as well with... was it? Somebody had said something, but what I'm saying is there's a lot... all the bikes are having the faults, and the Ducati seems to have been pretty well...
It's pretty well sorted, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, fair. They've had them bikes, the V4Rs are tuned to... are built to rev at a certain rev anyway. So up to like 16.8, I think, and they've all been turned straight back down to 16.2. So they've still got...
it all helps, and they've still got plenty of reps.
Yeah, they're never getting leathered, and they wouldn't be getting turned up for the TT because they just don't need it. So I think the reliability issue wouldn't be a problem. It's just the mileage issue.
Yes.
With the Ducatis, because every race bike has a limited mileage on every single part.
But Ducati's one of the lowest. And
yeah. Well, they're Italian, so they want to make a bit more money. But it's weird when you look at the build sheets and stuff, and you've got a bolt that holds a foot peg on, and that does 1,200 kilometres, and when that bolt has done, it comes out, and it has to be replaced. It's weird. These are things that people don't get to see. But
that move to, I think it will be, by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be announced. It's being announced in Motorcycle News tomorrow that Glenn's partnering Tommy at PBM. That's 3 really big characters in the same team, in the same garage.
Oh, it's...
I think by round 3 we could have some fun.
I mean, Glenn's obviously been there before, so he knows how to work with Paul. I'm not... I wouldn't say... They didn't part ways on the best of terms, but it wasn't bad terms. It was just a progression, and Glenn moved on to where he was going. I think and I think we all did at the time. I think everyone expected just a little bit more from Glenn in the British Championship on the Ducati at the time, and it just didn't gel. And Glenn had a few issues that he spoke about himself, so we're not speaking out of turn.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
So I think this time around, you've got Tommy Bridewell and Glenn Irwin. Again, it's not. I mean, them two will have a laugh with each other, but on track, they will be fighting to be the number one rider in that team.
They both are going there wanting to be number one rider.
Absolutely. So
Glenn will see that he will be, because he finished second in the championship. So he finished ahead of Tommy, so therefore I am a better place to be a number one rider. But Tommy spent the last 4 seasons on a Ducati.
Yeah.
So he knows the kit, he knows what it's about and how to do it. But
the only thing with Tommy is, because for next year they've got a new bike. Effectively with the V4, the new latest V4R coming out. I did speak to Ian at Oxford, and he said, to be honest, it's not a massive change for us because we've got the new swinging arm that Tommy's used, and apparently that's what the latest bike is going to have.
Okay.
This may always change winter testing, because it always does, but at the actual time, he went, the engine will change slightly, but for us, there's not a huge amount of changes. But I also know, and this is no disrespect to Tommy, he's a bit finicky. He pretends he's not, but he bloody is. So if he doesn't like the feeling of the new bike, he will try his best to turn it back into the old bike. Well, Ducati are telling him, no, this is the way.
We have to go forward.
If Tommy doesn't gel with the brand new bike immediately, you may see Glenn taking advantage early on, because Glenn has been on a Honda for the last few years. You know, it's been a while since, and he's not been on I don't think he's been on the V4R Ducati. So
it's still a
what
twin
Glenn
when
gets
he
given, he'll be thinking, well, that's the best.
Yeah.
Because he's not rode better in that respect. So that'll be interesting to see. But that'll be a bloody dogfight all year, won't it? Crikey.
But I don't think we're speaking out of turn too much. But for Glenn to do the TT once and then to effectively, what it seems, is walk away. He's got 2 kids and one on the way. Sometimes you've got to sit up and go, hang on a minute, this is a bit of a risk. And I just don't think he wants that risk at this time of his life. He's been there, he's done it. He's fastest newcomer. That's going to take some beating, that fastest newcomer record. I wonder if he had a moment out on circuit that made his eyes light up and go, actually, maybe this isn't for me.
I said exactly the same thing to 1 or 2 people when I found it. I said, I think that Glenn may well have had a moment that he's not spoken about.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, it's totally
absolutely
up to him.
Yeah.
That made him just think, hang on a minute, just exactly what you said. You just reiterated exactly what I thought, and I've said to
something that was a bit more than a puckering moment.
Yeah. He did pull in during the senior because it was very windy, so it could have been something on that, and he thought, well, I don't need to do it. And to be honest, at the moment, Glenn doesn't need to do this. I'll guarantee that Dean Harrison and Peter Hickman, when they found out, if he's going to Ducati, that he probably will, it's 99.99% nailed on, he isn't doing it. I bet they mopped their brow and went, thank God for that.
That's right.
That's a bit of a let off for us. Whether Glenn will go back in a few years when his new baby's here and it's a bit older and stuff, because Glenn he's got time.
Of course,
and it could be something he does towards the back end.
He's older than I thought. He's 32, isn't he?
Yeah,
early 30s. I'm sure he's 32.
I think, weirdly, if Glenn went back at about 36 and did it for like 2 or 3 years, it'd be a bit like a bit of a Steve Plater thing.
Yes.
That does it at the back end of his career.
Yeah.
He's a bit more sensible. He's a bit more, because Glenn can be
Steve Plater and sensible.
Well, yeah, but Glenn's calmed down a lot, but he's still a giddy bugger.
Of course he is.
So I think that if Glenn wants to go back and do it at the back end of his career, I'd like to see that. I wouldn't be against it. I'd be like, yeah, you could probably go now, Glenn, and take on the world and probably get that win. Because again, he would be doing on almost a Steve Plater thing. He'd go and show them all how to do it and go, right, I'm done, I'm finished. Yeah.
What about, in that case, talking about the TT and for next year, let's talk about Brooksy at FHO on the BMW. Will he be doing the TT on that, do we know? I've not heard anything.
I've not heard anything, but you've got to think that it was one of the reasons he maybe went there, because Josh absolutely loves the TT, and he's a fan of the Northwest. He does like road racing. He's more than capable.
100%.
He obviously was on wasn't on the best bike last time he was there on the Norton, but he didn't half make it bloody sing. And he was half
finished top 10.
Yeah, and it was half the reason that McGuinness went, well, yeah, it can't be that bad if Josh is doing them sort of times, and I should be flying. So
did he manage? He did a 130.
Yeah. He was well up there. I mean, I think it was Davo, his teammate, and they both went well. I mean, fair enough that the Norton at the time still had the money being ploughed into it. It was the someone told me a lot more about this and I forgot, but I think they had the Aprilia engines that were out of the PBM machines or something.
And the Spondon frame and that kind of thing.
And I think when John went, they just had no money left, and the bike was detuned and all sorts of crap. But anyway, it's irrelevant. The bike, when Josh rode it, was quite good, and it made John McGuinness think, yeah, I'll sign for them because I could go and have some fun, and it's the dream team. So yeah, you'd like to think that Josh would be going back. I think it'd be good for FHO. He's not going to push. I don't think he's going to push Peter Hickman for the win and Dean Harrison. But
if 2 bikes in the top 10,
if Josh gels with it, there's no reason why he couldn't sneak a podium, because anything can happen at the TT. There could be a mechanical. There's so many variants.
So much can go on.
Yeah.
Here's one for you then. What's the difference between the bike, the BMW now, the M1000RR, versus the S1000RR that he raced in World Superbikes and in 16 and roundly detested? Night and day?
Yeah, the difference is fantastical, isn't it? It's a completely different motorcycle, and as it will be again next year, really. Josh was on the older bike that never really cut its teeth in any form of superbike racing. The Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3s, as people call them now. I used to get bloody lost with all that. I'd rather go for years. I mean, Melandri and Haslam did Marco win on it, and Leon had podiums, but it's never really been there. And Mark van der Mark's won on it.
Yeah.
I think he's won on the newer bike.
On the newer bike, but that was the Altea bike, wasn't it, back in those days?
When in 16, when they went to Worlds, Sean Muir didn't get the Yamaha contract, so they were running basically a privateer BMW thing, and a lot of people expected a lot more, and even Sean Muir still expected a lot more, because he's one of the he was one of the best teams in British.
Agreed.
He's quite he's shown, even though BMW is not getting the results yet, but it's just I'm talking about Sean's professionalism, and when they were getting their arse handed to him, Sean didn't like that, but BMW changed the way racing kind of went, because they would sell you these factory engines that anyone can buy if you've got the money. To a point, but
that's the thing. Even if you're not a factory team, if you've got enough money, you can buy those factory parts. Yeah, they're available to everybody at a cost. But if you're a factory team, you get the discount on it.
Yeah. So but like you say, it must have been a factor for Josh to think about. But then Josh will have spoke with FHO, he'll have spoke with Darren and maybe Peter, and said, right, what are the differences with the bikes now? And he will have been told, and they've gone. It looks to me, and I might be talking out my backside here, but the bike they're putting out for next year seems to be a real progression, and they're dealing with all the faults. I mean, at British this year, they've been on Suter swinging arms. I don't know what link, because I never got told, but Peter could not get on with it, and it was down to struggling with edge grip, I think. And Peter actually went back to the 2018 swing arm, his FTR swing arm, that they modified quite heavily to fit the bike. And he wanted to use it untested at Cadwell, and the team said, no, let's stick with what we know. And then he tested it on the Monday or Tuesday, the day after Cadwell Park.
You keep wafting that microphone around, mate.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
It's all right.
You
get excitable with your hands.
I do, yeah. And he tested it, and then at Snetterton he was flying, and that's it. Yeah. Peter had a much stronger end to the season.
But he was mint at Brands, wasn't he?
As did all the BMWs. Peter did tell me that does all their dyno work at FHO and looks after them, that the BMW does seem to favour colder conditions. It doesn't seem to eat the tyres like it does in the absolute heat. So
the opposite of a Yamaha.
They had a good start to the season. The shows a bit like, this could be a good year for them, and then teetered off when it got warmer, and then as it backed off at the end of the year. And like you said, exactly the opposite of what the Yamaha did. The Yamaha does not like colder conditions. It absolutely, and I must have spoken about this 20 times with Duncan in commentary. You could see where Brad was struggling, and different tyres were being tried, but it was just the nature of the way the bike works. So Josh will bring his own element to the team that may help Peter in the British Championship, and then if they go to the TT, then Peter will bring Josh on. Yeah, so no, it's a good idea. I think
it's going to be a great outfit that next season. It's going to be interesting, and it kind of sort of edges us towards sort of silly season a bit, doesn't it? We know Glenn's going to PBM, and Josh has already signed at FHO and had a wobble round at a very wet and autumnal Cadwell Park. Not the best of conditions to have a shakedown on a bike through the woodland there with all the leaves, but at least he's been out on it.
They got the picture that they wanted.
Exactly.
Let's be honest. FHO got the picture that they wanted because it dried up in the afternoon a bit. They got Josh sailing over the mountain. Happy days. There you go.
Bring it in. Yeah. Box.
Mr. PR person, get this out.
Which is Jonesy's son, I believe. Is little Jonesy.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I know. Zoe Byrne does a fair bit of writing for them, but I think little Jonesy does quite a bit of their PR stuff as well. So he's got a good career ahead of him because I think he's only young.
Yeah, good stuff. Because and I did notice, I don't know whether Josh rode both bikes, but he had Vickers' bike there and Peter's. He did have both swinging arms to try, so whether he tested both, I don't know, but I did see that in the pictures that the one had Peter's FTR swing arm in and one had the Suter. So, I would imagine, I think they're hoping, and you think they would get it now, that they'll get this Kalex chassis that they've been whittering on about in World Superbikes being great. So we'll see about that. They were saying it's the small changes that are going to make a big difference.
That's the Japanese way, isn't it? Small steps.
Yeah. They've done the complete. I mean, that bike's been around for quite a while now, but because of COVID, there's a lot of them newer bikes that you think, it's only a year old, but it ain't. It's been around a while. That the new with the frame, and I saw the World Superbike at Donington. I went down there and went into Sean Mew's garage, and I got to look at where they'd braced the frames and all sorts. And I didn't get to go in any of the World Superbike garages, to be fair.
That's because you're bad.
Yeah, probably. Don't let that tit in here. But I did get to see it. It was just a work of art. It really was. So if they've done enough from this season, and they've got enough data back from British and what's it, then we'll see. I mean, they've got this. This takes us out to Worlds a bit now, but they've now got this super concession rules. So are we about to see the demise of these homologation one-off specials? Because they're going to be allowed to do it's like Ducati back in the day. They were bringing out a variation of the 916 every 6 rounds, so you could have a different
models.
100 models, yeah. And I think it's only 150 now. They have to off 500 or something.
But Johnny Ray Kawasaki did that a couple of times, didn't they, with the extra revs and things like that?
Yeah, and then Scott Smart went, no, bring me a new bike, not one with a new front fairing. Go away, you fools.
Front fairing and 500 revs.
Look at this all new bike. It's exactly the same.
Don't tell everybody. They'll all want one.
Thank you very much, Ryan. You're a legend. I was actually going to ring Scott Smart on the way over today, and I just didn't have time. I went out to ask him, so with these new super concession rules, are we going to see, is that the end of your homologation specials? Because Honda don't need to bring a new Fireblade out with a different rake and trail and stuff with chassis and bits and bobs, because they're going to be allowed to do it within the rules.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So which is good for racing, but it's for guys on the road, there's nothing better than getting that RC45 or something like that, or that one of 500. So I hope we don't see the end of that because of these, but we'll see.
Well, you don't know what's coming. We don't know what's coming, do we? That's the thing. I mean, Scott's done a mega job on that BMW this year. I mean, he's had to carry it pretty much himself because Michael van der Mark's been injured for the bulk of the season. But listening to various people within the World Superbike paddock and the job that Scott's done on that BMW, he's basically gone in and gone, right, listen to me. Let's do it this way. Let's do it. Let's try it. And he said he's been harsh in the garage. He's been difficult with some of the crew. I know he's got Chunky working there as part of BMW. Ian Lord, who's got a wealth of experience with the BM, but to bring somebody in with an open mind and
he was all right with working with Yamaha, was Lordy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He worked with Rob Mack for years, didn't he?
Yeah, and then won Josh the championship.
Yes, he did.
The first year of the 15.
Him and Mick Shanley and who else? Steve Bradley. There was a few of them all together in that side of the garage, wasn't there?
I mean, I'm quite sure that Scott's speaking to the likes of Ian and even Sean. saying, look, I want to do this, but you've then got to go through the Germans. And again, it's your HRCs of this world and things like that no, it's built this way to be done like this. You change this. And sometimes you've got to take the rider's input on board. I think that Ducati have done that quite a lot, and it's finally paying dividend now. They've got something that everyone can ride, instead of making something that only one person can ride. So if they've listened to Scott, I think that's what I mean. I think if they've made a suitable amount of small changes to the new bike next year, the BMW could be right there, because it's, again, they're saying it's a whole new model, but I think it's got enough in common with the old bike for people to like the bits that were good about the old bike. Yes. But you know what I mean. So.
But the thing with Ducati was they built a bike that only Casey Stoner could ride, and nobody could ride a bike like Casey Stoner. It took them 6 years to move away from that. It's a long time.
I once said on Facebook, and got shot to shit for it, really, that Ducati's whole ethos changed, and they started doing more what the rider wanted, was when Valentino came. And they got
that a little bit, and also when it changed from Preziosi to Gigi Dall'Igna.
To Gigi, yeah. But it was Rossi and Jerry Burgess that went, right, we want a frame, and we want a swing arm, we want it this way. And that is really where it started from. I'm not saying that Rossi and Jerry are the reason Ducati are now winning, but they took that bike in a different direction because Ducati listened.
First time they put a beam frame in it, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it was all the airbox stuff and the trellis before
yeah.
That. Yeah, and people going, oh, so you're saying that Ducati's successful because I'm like, no, but what I'm saying is the direction changed.
Correct.
And they started listening to the riders and moved away. Apparently, from the one or two people that I've ever spoken to, they said that Rossi was a bit of a nightmare at Ducati. I walked in like Lord of the Manor in case he never did that, but Rossi at that time was God, and he got what he wanted, and they obviously saw something within it, because they've moved on and carried on. And Gigi went, yes, right, we'll keep this dynamic and we'll go.
But also, what and I know you remember this, but the listeners as well, Ducati are a really small manufacturer. If you want something changing at Yamaha, it will be with you by next week. If you want something changed at Ducati, it will be with you next month. But they want to test it and make sure it's right and it doesn't affect anything else. But they don't have that turnaround that the major Japanese factories do.
Yeah, Ducati itself don't even run the race teams, do they? It's a company down the road. Is it called Field Racing or something? It's actually a separate entity, really, to Ducati. It's Ducati's name on them. Yeah, I'm sure it's Field Racing, but again, people will fill us in on that. But it's not. But it's not even. Ducati are a small manufacturer relatively, but then the race department is even smaller.
Yeah, of course.
And so Yamaha have got the infrastructure, HRC have got the infrastructure, but even them have now with Marquez, they've tried that aluminium Calyx swinging arm for two reasons. One, to get the feeling. Yeah. But they were saying that because they're out around the world racing all year, if they destroy a carbon swinging arm, it has to go back. It has to be. Because they repair them a lot. You don't really always make a new swinging arm out of carbon because it can be repaired.
But it has to be upgraded and everything, doesn't it?
The turnaround it takes a really long time. So, and it's extremely expensive. Whereas the aluminium swinging arm, it might look like a step back, but you can alter the feeling so quickly.
Yes.
It can be manufactured in Europe. It can be turned around, and it has its advantages. So it looks like a step back, but it's not. So, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the carbon swing arms and things. I'm not a rider or anything like that. I just, if they were as good as they're supposed to be, they would have caught on a lot more. They'd be 3D printing them before they do carbon swing arms again, because the aluminium, you've got, what you're dealing with the cast and with stress points and shape and flex. Whereas with carbon, you're struggling with that. You don't have the technology to make that work.
Yeah, it's with the might that Ducati have got behind them, money-wise, with Audi and such, they seem to have got it a lot more dialed in. Yeah. And it seems to be an integral part of their bike now. But they've been going at it a long time. Aprilia is still a carbon. I don't even I think Morbidelli was using a carbon swinging arm for Yamaha. I don't even think he's using that now. So I think there's only really Ducati and Aprilia that are stalwarts of it and using it.
We will make it work.
Yeah. But you're right. I think it's all the stresses and the lateral forces and things that make it really hard to give you the flex that you need. Whereas, like you say, aluminium, they're not struggling to make the bike light enough in MotoGP, let's face it. So if the rear swing arm is half a kilo more, they'll lose it somewhere else. They do. So yeah.
It's interesting times, isn't it? I quite like that that Scott's doing what he's doing. I know he's and we can debate this one forever, so I'm not going to go down that road of the rider weight. And he didn't complain when he was on the Ducati, did he?
No, he was quite all right when he was winning at BSB.
When he was winning at BSB, and when he was challenging at the front in World Superbike, and now they've strapped a man-child to a missile, then all hell's breaking loose. But it's just the stars aligning. There's nothing you can do about it. Nobody else seems too bothered.
No, and it's... We talked about it in British a number of years ago, all the way back in 2008, and it was they weighed the riders and the bikes, and they went through it all. And I think there was me and Russell that weighed like 2 stone more than everybody else, and Jonathan Palm was basically, we can't police this. No. And Stuart Higgs, like, no, I don't. Bautista's tiny, so he hasn't got the strength that Scott's got to rag something around. So it swings and roundabouts. You can't penalise someone for being too strong. So why penalise? He's not massively strong.
There aren't tracks with long straights anyway that he's going to make too much of an advantage that they can't pull back on the twisty bits.
What did Bautista do on the Honda? Struggled his brains off, and he was just as small on that. And if it's, that Honda is not shy of power.
No, it's not.
He's absolutely a missile.
Look what Lecuona and Vieja are doing on it this season. They've had a great year.
Exactly.
Compared to what Bautista did.
Yeah. So I think the super concession rules that Scott Smart's introduced will level the playing field far more than rider bike and weight.
I think so.
Yeah, and I think they'll try that first, and if it doesn't work, then something won't be happening next year. And Scott explained it quite well on the thing on World Superbike.
Yeah,
there's a reason why they can do it in all the other championships. But Superbike ruling is slightly different, and it would alter a lot of things. It would make more things applicable or something.
It changes a whole host of variables, doesn't it, on a Superbike? On a junior Supersport, it's not too much of an issue. Stick 2 or 3 kilos in certain places and you're away.
Yeah.
But on a Superbike, it changes the whole dynamic. When you spent millions on taking all the weight off, all of a sudden you've got to put 4 kilos somewhere. It's a ridiculous amount of weight to add to something.
Yeah.
So it changes the electronics, it changes the setup. And if you want a wee break, mate, we can do that. I can't say a fucking thing in here. Feel better now?
Yes, thank you for that quick wee break. It happens to us you get to a certain age.
Man of a certain age.
Can't make it through night now without needing to get up, which our last loves, because I get to have a boyfriend now and then.
What are you, 42 now?
45, cock.
45?
45 of the week, weren't I?
Oh, yeah, you was, yeah. Halfway to 90.
I'm not
You're middle-aged now, mate.
I'm not saying that. But you see, I've lived 5 years longer than I thought. I always thought, I'll not make 40, mate, and I bloody have. Not only that, then I have a bloody kid.
Yeah, you got a kid and a beautiful missus.
Yeah, I've got a beautiful missus. Yeah.
Living the dream a bit, aren't you?
Yeah. We're both enjoying not sleeping at the minute, I can tell you that. They call it this 4-month regression. So it's gone from sleeping nearly all the way through to just every hour and a half now. Hello. And he's happy as a sunlight. So you can't punish the child, can you?
Of course you
can't. I've tried putting him on eBay and I got told off for that. So, yes, but anyway, let's get back to
back to the race. What was I going to say? Let's come back to BSB, because I think that's fascinating for this coming season. Well, I say this coming season. We've only just finished the last one.
Well, without going into too much depth about the season that's just gone on in BSB, what we've got to say about it is, I mean, obviously everyone knows who won, who's come second, and such. Do you not think it was a really, really, really good season of racing?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can look at it and think, oh well, Bradley kind of dominated this, that, but there were so many different winners and so many twists and turns and plot things. And yes, let's be honest, the last round at Brands, it was pretty much, Brad was going to have to do something really, really bad to lose a championship. But there was still the draw there. There was still all the people, but just the whole season of the twists and turns. Because towards the end of the season, I'm sure, and you were part of the team, and you're part of the team that Bradley and the guys must have been thinking, Jesus Christ, this bike is not working as well as we want it to, as it has been doing in the summer, because it just not liking the cold.
It all
conditions.
came up at Alton Park, didn't it?
Yeah,
the first round of the showdown.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, after that second red flag on the longer race, it was like, hang on a minute, there's something not right.
Yeah,
and the guys went away and tried to discuss it, but all the Yamahas were finding the same thing.
Yeah,
and well, unfortunately, there weren't too many Yamahas at Alton Park for difficult reasons. For Taz, obviously breaking his femur, and Jason getting mullered into Druids twice. To lose that kind of performance out of the SCX that everybody was using, and then to roll up on the grid as Brad did at Donington on the 0 when everybody else was still on an X. Brave move.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked, because it kept that consistency of being able to finish in the top 3, top 5. And weirdly, his 2 worst rounds were both his home rounds. 4th 3 times in the summer. But then to come to Brands Hatch at the end of the season and crash in race 2 and just get 5th in just the points he needed, it kind of petered out the season for Brad in those last few rounds because of the temperature drop. And it just didn't finish with a flourish, but he'd done enough in the regular part of the season to maintain it.
Yeah, which then gave it a bit of the excitement back to the fans, because it wasn't ultimate dominancy.
Agreed.
Like you say, and to put the SC0 on was a brave move. But if you look at the temperature that the track was at the time, and the temperature variance that the SC0 works in, I thought a lot more people were going to go with it. I was saying it in commentary with Duncan that I'm surprised a few people haven't gone more with this, because the SCX, it works in a similar window, but when the temperature drops off, the SCX goes. There's nothing left in it. The SC0 had a little bit more in it. So, yeah.
Like 22, 25 degrees track temperature, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
it's somewhere around there.
They said the SC0 previously was like its optimum was... not optimum, sorry. The lowest it could get down to was about 20 degrees. But I'd seen it run at, like 17, 18, and people still won. So I really thought that's where a lot of the grid would go, but didn't. But then, for some reason, their bikes were managing the tyres a little bit better. They'd. But then, the BMWs, for instance, or Hickey, more than Danny Buck can come on towards the end of the year as it cooled down.
And Andrew as well. Yeah, both the Cinetic boys.
You've got to think that they've been trying a lot of things all year, because they just didn't have the grip that Jason had, Brad had, etc. all year. So they'd been used to trying a lot of different things to get it working, whereas Brad was on the crest of a wave at some times.
The confidence was there, wasn't it? It didn't matter what he did. It was there. He was in control every weekend. Yeah, in control of himself, apart from race 2 at Brands.
Never made it boring. This is what I mean. It was just it was a really, really good season. I haven't watched the season thing back. I don't know if it's out yet. Where they go, but. Yeah, it was entertainment. It was entertainment all the way through. We've got we can talk about the O show and the he got took out 3 times in total.
Twice, and then twice, 3 times in total.
3 times, and then so everyone's then got their opinion
by 3 different riders.
Yeah,
social media showed its true colours on that, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't want to go down that route, because if you're sad enough to start threatening riders and saying this and speaking like that, then go and watch football and frankly, fuck off.
It's 100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
That's not what racing is about.
We're all allowed an opinion, but let's be grown up about it.
An opinion breeds discussion, and a discussion should be had. And I have my opinion. And at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters, or the only facts that matter, is the ones that Stuart Higgs and the race directors make. Like it or not, that is how it is. So it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to see it from a different light and say, well, I think this. But you don't need to start going threatening riders or saying this. That's just bullshit.
I hope you fall. I hope you break your leg, or you can't go down that road. It's ridiculous.
I have a platform because I'm here talking to you.
Yes.
So my honest opinion is, it's not about the riders hitting Jason. It's more of Jason. It's just my opinion. Don't shoot me down. But Jason never gives an inch because he's a racer.
Yeah, of course
it's that simple. And if, I've seen Jason will lean on and he won't move. If Jason give half a yard, he wouldn't have come off with Andy Irwin at Brands Hatch. No. But the fact is that he stayed on his line because he's perfectly entitled to, and Andy clipped him. And Andy, I spoke to Andy. There's no malice. There was no malice in Hickey's move on him. There was no malice in any of it.
Nobody's gone out there deliberately to knock him off.
So does Jason change his style to suit other riders come underneath him? Does he give a bit? Does he not?
Well, see, I wondered about that, because I wondered why he didn't change his line at Alton Park. It's like, well, hang on, you've been pushed wide once, so at the end of the race, but now you've been wide at the start of the race. It was last lap, I think, wasn't it? When Hickey went underneath him, it was the last lap or second to last lap. But then Tommy went under him in the opening lap or the second lap of the second race. And you think, well, okay, but there's mitigating circumstances. I thought he would have closed his line in the early part of the race.
Yeah.
But from what I see, that he has to take that wider line for the Yamaha so it doesn't compromise him down the straight on the rollers to go into Lodge. So he has to carry that sweeping line for the Yamaha to be able to do that because it hasn't got the punch out of the corners. It likes to sweep. It likes to
yeah.
So he has to take that wider line to be able to not lose out and get mugged into Lodge.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh no.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it's not the Alton Park one, for instance, it's not a place that it's known for passing, but because Jason took such a sweeping line, again, this is nothing against Jason or Hickey or Tommy. It's inviting the rider behind
to think,
there's a gap there, and I'm going to go for it. Whether there is or there isn't, that ain't for me or you to decide. That's race directions thing. But that's a good discussion. Well, did you think there was a gap? Well, yes, I did. And then someone else will go, well, no, I didn't. And that's cool in the gang. But don't start dissing it. Yes, just bollock. The race direction will make their decision. And I have an opinion about it and thought, well, yeah, maybe Jason needs to have a little think now that he's been took out three times this year. Why?
Yeah.
Did he hold his line too much? Did he not give that little inch? Is he thinking he's perfectly entitled? That's for Jason to decide. That's for the other riders to think, there's a gap there, I'll go for it or I won't.
Go back to 2019.
Yeah.
Silverstone. When Taz went underneath him, he held his line.
Exactly.
And the same thing happened.
Yeah. But, Jason's perfectly entitled to.
Of course he is.
So we are the ones to tell him to move. Jason will decide what he wants. And he's a very hard and strong rider, is Jason.
Of course he is.
People don't really see it from him because of how he rides, but he's very, very strong and very... It's one thing that's got him so many victories because he won't yield. But then sometimes when you don't yield, you end up on your backside.
Well, you look at Snetterton, a place where he took his first podium, his first win, and he got royally mugged because he was further down the grid and he's not used to riding with the guys that are sort of the back end of the top 10.
Yeah.
And he won't give way to them, but they also don't think twice about pushing him out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not his riding style to be that way, but he got royally mugged at Snet and lost a bucket full of points there where he should have really been on the podium on a regular basis. Which then people sort of think, well, hang on a minute, we can get under his skin here. If we start roughing him up, then we know that if we stick the bike under him, he's going to stay there. But there's got to be some kind of twos and fro's with this about how to get the best out of Jason and say, do you know what? Sometimes it is right to just hang back. You've got to adjust your mentality at certain times. I totally agree. There's next year. You'd have to think that Jason will be fighting for the championship again. Sure thing. Absolutely.
So maybe that is a discussion for him and his team and them to say, listen, when you see this, instead of making yourself the one that could be taken out here, just yield and pull it back or settle for a...
Because you have the ability, you've got the motorcycle underneath you.
Yeah. If Jason can stay on, he's got a title in him.
100%.
So then it's down to him and his team to say, right, let's think about it this way from now on. If you see that, Hickey wasn't fighting him for the championship. Let him through, let him go. And Hickey probably would have gone straight through and run wide, and he'd just pulled it straight back and gone through. And so, Jason, stop being so hard on everyone and being so, it's a different aggressive style of riding. It's not going up someone and clattering them.
No.
Jason's very this is where I am.
And I'm not moving.
And I aren't moving.
Yeah.
but then he's the one that's getting bitten. So yeah, that was one of the twists. You know, you said Tommy Bridewell. He'd said at the start of the year he was going to win it at the end, not at the beginning.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that didn't really ring true. Tommy had short signs of brilliance again, and it just. I don't know. Did it teeter off, or there was just? He was just up and down a bit, and I think. Even though they're completely different teams on completely different bikes, it didn't help that the other Ducatis weren't really performing. And
nowhere near, were they?
And Tommy thinking, well, is it these bikes now? You know, I'm me. I'm still the guy that won by 10 seconds last year at Alton Park. Is it the Ducatis not just as good as it was? I mean, the PBM bikes were not the bikes that they were
19,
a year or two
20,
ago. They kept a lot of the same stuff. And Birdie had said on Chasing the Race at the start of the year, basically, this could be. Well, it said it was going to come to its natural end at some point. He never said this year was going to be the conclusion of PBM racing. And just the way the results was going, I was telling everyone. End of August. If you think Birdie's going to fade away at this championship, you are pissed.
He's not going out in it. He's not making a showdown. If
he gets a 1-2 next year, I'm sure Stuart Higgs will be thinking this time next October, thinking, I wonder if Birdie's going to be back. But Birdie will go out in a blaze of glory. He will not fade away.
The most successful team owner in BSB history with... What's he got? 9 titles? 9 titles?
8, yeah, 8 or 9.
8, yeah. I think. He's got 6. He's got a few with Shaky, hasn't he? Shaky was 6-time champion, but I can't remember how many.
Josh won 1.
Scott won 1.
Hizzy won 1.
Yeah, Hizzy won 1 with him as well, didn't he? Stuart Easton won a Super Sport title.
Shaky on the Ducati and the Kawasaki's, and then back on the Ducatis.
Yeah, he's
done all right.
He's done all right for himself, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, to take on the might of HRC and end up with more titles. I mean, I know Honda UK, the Javi Beltran's team is down in Louth. Has been a full HRC backed outfit and then back to just Honda UK, and then HRC had a lot more involvement, but that's what HRC will always do. They'll send something over when it's a new model, and then it becomes their own to develop and do what they will with.
And a couple of riders.
Yeah, but the fact is, Paul's taken on the might of HRC. Calls himself a little poultry farmer in Penrith, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But
well, you are.
Yeah,
but, you know,
he may well be the factory Ducati team as such. But Paul has to pay for that. Because it's not Ducati don't come along and go, "Here, Birdie, have all this for free."
No, he's paying for the privilege.
Yeah. So,
to have 2nd and 3rd in the championship on your bikes.
Yeah, Birdie will be back next year. We know that they're getting the new bikes. We know that he's throwing his everything at it. I mean, I don't know why after getting Tom Sykes on board this year, he decided not to do this year and say, he just thought the bikes were still good enough. And Birdie does have sometimes, he has his quirks and his ways. And it's just Birdie. But next year, another factor for reason why Glenn signed for him, I think Glenn had heard about the new V4R coming out and thought, right, let's...
And it's not a twin, it's a V4. He can go and do this, and it'll be something a little bit different, different power delivery, and may well suit his riding style.
Yeah.
One thing I was looking at before I came down to see you, when you look at next season, a lot of the major superbike teams have got a spare seat. FS3 have a seat going because Rory's going to Moto2 with Team America World Police.
Team America World Police.
With American Racing.
Hapless Hopkins in charge. Yes,
indeed.
Yes, bless.
Potentially OMG Racing have a spare seat. Because we suspect Brad's going to go to World Superbike, which should be announced hopefully in the not too distant future. Potentially Taz could go to World Superbikes if he went for Barney.
Is there still a chance with him?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I'm sure it's only a slim chance, but there could potentially be a space at McCann's.
I mean, we did speak about that at the start of the year, and I said that this year for Taz would go one way or the other,
and it went the other,
and unfortunately it went the other, and every part of myself hates me for thinking that, and then it go the wrong way that it did because it was all injury. I just thought it could be a little bit lackluster. It could, you lose your heart a bit because you've not gone where you
want to go for that next step.
Yeah, God, I just didn't want it to be like that for the pool lad. And he showed when he was at his fittest that he could still win. But it's you're only as good as your last race and your last championship, and whether Taz may have missed it. He'll probably come back in a blaze of glory this next year if he stays in BSB.
He's got a point to prove, hasn't he? And then I don't think that World Superbike dream is quite as bright as it used to be. because, I think he had the chance of the Moto X ride. For whatever reason, he sort of passed up on that or hesitated, maybe. But if you look also, there's Lee Hardy, who's looking for a new rider. BMW Cinetic are looking for another rider, because I suspect they'll keep Danny. But at the end of the day, that there are at least 4 seats that need filling.
Yeah,
who on earth's going to fill them?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? And I don't think we're going to get a lot of answers until the bike show. Really, I mean, Hawk, for example. I did hear rumblings of them. Because Suzuki have pulled out of motorcycle racing as such, I asked the question a couple of times just to people in passing of, do you think they'll be here next year with Suzuki? Do they do one more year with the Suzuki package, or do they now move away? And apparently they're moving away and going to Honda. So whether there'll be
I'd heard the same,
an official satellite Honda team, I don't know. But
or whether a custom Honda team, whatever. Because Tag is still running Hondas.
You'd like
to
think with the influence that Hawk have had over the years, that it would be a little bit more than a customer team. Like they were saying that Tag was the satellite Honda team, but I think there would be a little bit more given to Hawk if that's the route they've chosen.
They've got a slightly bigger infrastructure, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think Tag have had a difficult season with Tito coming and going, and Luke Mossey being injured. It's been a tough time for them for the Derbyshire outfit. And they're a great bunch of people. No question about that. A great bunch. Nobody can fault their commitment at all. But I think to see, we reckon they're going to lose Christian. The rumour mill says he's going to Moto Rapido.
Yeah, I did actually speak to Ian, and I'm not speaking out of turn. He'd listed his 3 riders to me. Well, 2 of them have been taken, so I don't think there was any particular order. It was just the 3 riders that were talking.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Christian's rode one of the V4 Ducatis, won on it, done very well. That'd be a very good fit.
I think so.
The family team, Christian's that kind of guy. I think that would be a really good. So you can imagine that. So Andy Irwin, I'm pretty sure is going back to Honda.
As far as I'm aware, yeah. That's the strong rumour
Danny
there.
Kent come on strong towards the end of the year. Charlie Nesbitt come on strong towards the end of the year. So then, I mean, Hawk could already be sewn up because
I think they are.
If they've got any sense, they've got their 2 riders.
Yeah, I think
as far as I think Danny needs. I think that when they signed Christian at the beginning of this year, they immediately put all their efforts into Christian Eden, and rightly so.
Sure,
because he's a proven winner. He's been around a bit. And did they put
Danny's still learning? Thank
God someone else has said that, because I don't think Danny was ready to take up the mantle as even an equal teammate. Let's just keep him part. But if they needed to let Danny know, I think that they had a longer term plan for him, not just Christian's here. Bollocks to you a bit, There's
absolutely no doubt in Danny Kent's talent. Absolutely no doubt whatsoever. But on a British superbike, without the traction control and the nuances of riding a production bike after years on a on a prototype.
Yeah, prototype machine.
Moto 3, Moto 2. To come back, do what he did on the stock foul. Yes, he's had his issues that everybody knows about, but he's kept his head down. He's worked his arse off. And he's slowly but surely working his way forward.
Yeah, I think if Hawk go to the Honda, I think the chassis is a much stiffer thing.
Yep.
That'll then suit Danny straight away. I think he'll get on with it straight away. He had a good end to the season, as did Charlie Nesbitt. Charlie's going places. Let's be quite honest. Charlie's the next Brad Ray. Charlie will come along within the next year or 2. If he stays that long, will dominate, and he will be gone. And rightly so. He's dipped his toe in the water at World Championship stuff or the European Championship. And it didn't really take off for him, but it wasn't the time for Charlie.
He's following that same path as Brad.
Yeah. But yeah, Charlie's going places and will go places.
I've got I said to him at Brands Hatch that I've got a little bet with myself that he will be British Superbike champion within 5 years.
Easily. Easily. I'd even go as far as to say 3 if he stays that long.
Yeah. He will get picked up for Worlds, because at the end of next season, I think there's going to be a reasonable exodus from World Superbikes. Yeah. Sonny's not going to be around forever. Alex isn't going to be around forever. Toprak wants to go MotoGP. There's 1 or 2 riders that are sort of edging sort of mid-30s that aren't going to be around forever. Yeah. So there are going to start to open up opportunities there that the likes of Brad, if he goes to Moto X, and Charlie, if he follows that same route, can take advantage of. Because Charlie's 21? Brad's only 25.
Yeah.
Loads of time.
I mean, like you said, the
20 years younger than you.
The 24-seat in MotoGP for Yamaha is, if it's not Top Rack, I don't know what they're thinking. Because I'm pretty sure that in 24 that Yamaha will be back to four bikes on the grid, and 2 of them will be with VR46.
Yes,
he started showing an awful lot of Yamaha product on his Instagram again as Valet.
He did the test on the R1, didn't he, last week?
That's the one that he got given, wasn't it? Yeah. And he's allowed to ride it now because in MotoGP ruling, you can test on an R1, but it has to be really standard.
Yeah.
So that GTYR thing that they gave him with the full superbike forks and the factory swing arm and everything, he could never ride it till he retired. So when they retired, he started using it. I bet he's having a ball on that thing. So, that's
nearly Top Rack spec, isn't it?
Yeah, that bike is nearly Top Rack spec. Absolutely, it's nearly Top Rack spec. So I'm sure that old dog's got a smile on his face. But so I think that the factory team will consist of Fabio and Top Rack within the next 2 years. And so, like you say, there'll be an exodus, and it's time for the kids to move. So, even like Bradley Ray, you'd want him placed in World Superbikes next year, or even World Supersport and go the Johnny Ray route. It worked for Johnny Ray.
No, but he was younger.
Yeah.
He was 5 years younger.
But if Bradley Ray stayed in BSB next year, I don't think it'd be the disappointment that Taz is facing now, because Taz has had to do this year and may have to do next year as well before he stands a chance. So we'll see.
Somebody put on that on I ended up replying, and I couldn't help myself.
I replied far too much.
No. And I got a message from a mate of mine going like, why are you engaging with these people? I'm like, I can't help myself, because they're saying like, oh no, Brad should stay and consolidate his championship next season. I'm like, why on earth would you do that? Look what's happened to Taz. Nothing is guaranteed. And what does consolidating do? You want to go off. And for me, he's going to go off and do, all being well, get this Moto X ride. It might just be for the European season, but it's capable of points on its day. Bottom end of the points table. If he does that, if he does all the European rounds, if he doesn't throw it at the scenery, and he gets a handful of points when he needs to, Dossely's going to go, you're all right, you.
And behind the scenes, how much help are Yamaha going to throw at that team that it's never had before? Yeah. To get Brad over there, to just keep him for a year, to see how he gets on. That's the thing now. World Superbikes is going a little bit more like MotoGP. Yeah. There'll be no bad bikes on that grid before you know it. It'll be, right, we're going to help this team with that package to keep that rider for 12 months to see where he goes. It won't be the true privateer in World Superbikes. No. And they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be.
It's a World Series.
Yeah, exactly. So if Brad did go next year, like you say, it was only... But we've got to wait and see. But I don't think it's the package that the Moto X bike is now. I think it would be a much better thing that Yamaha go, try this, take that.
And I'm not taking anything away from Taz in any way, shape or form, because I've never worked with him. But after working with Brad for the last 2 seasons, Brad is a very, very bright rider. He knows what he can get out of a bike, and it's proved it this year. He threw it down the road twice, in the second race of the year and the second to last race of the year. And nobody was more pissed off than he was, because he made 2 silly mistakes of being just slightly a foot wide both times and took in the front. Other than that, he's been on rails all year.
I thought he caught the case in at Brands. Is that not
no,
the case?
It was just a bit
Was
wild.
That not the case that he caught?
It wasn't the case that he caught the case. Oh, mate, I tell you what, he's such a comedian.
I bloody watched it and then got the replay. I'm
sure he was just a little bit wider, and it was the front that did it.
Oh, just right. Well,
they would have lifted it up, wouldn't it, if he'd have caught the case in?
I'm sorry to tell you, Duncan, but you were wrong. I told you at the time you were right, but you were wrong, mate. There you go. I hope you're happy up there in Knockhill knowing that you're wrong.
We love Duncan. What a great guy. He needs to come back on the podcast at some point, but it's a long way to drive up to we'll meet him halfway. We'll go and do it. Newcastle.
Well, all 3 of us will get on and do one over Christmas.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be mega, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere up on the services, up on the M6.
Yeah, there's one that does really good pies.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
T-Bay.
Duncan does. Is it T-Bay? Is it that one?
The privately owned one.
Yeah.
T-Bay services.
Yeah. We'll go there and have a pie and a chat with a jock. Let's do it.
Oh, let's do that. Duncan, if you're up for it, drop us a message, mate. You've got my number. Talk to me about Ryan Vickers.
Well, what did you say?
Last I heard, that Ryan, at the time, Ryan was looking at options in Supersport because he's had a tough 3 or 4 seasons in BSB. There's no doubt in the lad's speed. It's a bit expensive at times. I think it's fair to say. And he's a super talented rider. I would like to see him on a Yamaha. Think back to what he did on the Stock 6.
Yeah.
In the same way that Brad and Kyle have done in their careers. I think his redeeming factor for 2023 could be a Yamaha.
It could well be.
Your thoughts?
It's a very, very, very good point, to be honest. That, I mean, he had moments of brilliance on the Liardi bike. The second year didn't go as well as the first. Am I right in thinking that? Or was it the second year went better?
Yeah.
But anyway, he had moments of brilliance.
I just want to make a point at this juncture that I did work for the team. As of now, I don't work for the team, but I'm still covering the social media and things like that. So I have no inside knowledge of what's coming in OMG racing at all. So I'm not preempting anything. I'm not preempting anything in any way, shape, or form.
Starting to get rowdy in here. We'll have to wrap up soon.
I think we will.
But yeah,
from that perspective,
would he be a good fit at OMG? Yes, I think so. What is missing from Ryan Vickers is
consistency.
It's consistency, and like you say, he's. This sounds really, really weird to say, but in the context, I mean, Ryan's been a little bit too quick to fall off this year, if that makes any sense. That he's throwing it at the wall far too much because he's too eger. There's too much of him. Now,
he's trying to catch himself up.
And what I'm going to get to is your point of if there was a space at OMG come up. And Ryan went there, where you actually ride the Yamaha in such a different manner to what he's been used to. But going back to like the Super Stock 600 days, where you go slower in.
Records that he broke on that Stock 6 and winning by 10, 12, 14 seconds a race. Nobody's done anything like that since.
Yeah, you'll know firsthand from being with the Yamaha team that how much they brake earlier, they brake less. They just brake longer, but a lot less force, and then
rail the
corners, and then pull out. So that maybe would suit Ryan's style, and it would give you that confidence boost because you're not having to do it all of this. Fire it in, get it stopped, get hard on the gas, and then the next thing you've sent yourself to the moon. Because what you'll always end up doing when you're having a struggling season like Ryan, and it showed it, you come out of that corner that bit harder every time, thinking I've got this, what, and yeah. So, but it'd be a really, really good show.
I think it's a good fit.
It'd be nice for it to happen. Yes. Yeah, there's talent there, and it'd be a shame for him to go back. Sometimes going back to move forward is better, but I don't think...
Buchan's done it. He did it on the Superstock, but I think it would hurt him too much, and there's too many people coming through, like Brad Peary and Jack Kennedy and Charlie Nesbitt and the lads that are looking to step up again from Stock 1000 in the next couple of years. Jack Nixons and people like that. There's some big talent coming through this. We're just in that little bit of a dip. If people move away, we haven't quite got the youngsters ready to take their place yet.
Yeah, I think if Ryan went back to Super Sport, I think he'd struggle to find his way back to Superbike.
I agree.
So yeah, I think the next season, if he is in Superbike, will be critical. And yes, I think you're right that the way for him to go is on a Yamaha, and I'm quite sure. You know, you're saying you're out with the team and you don't get told. I'm sure Alan must have looked at him and thought, you know, the team's not stupid. No. They've got the right people in there that, you know, sometimes the results don't tell the full story. And the inside people know.
Well, this brings me on to Kyle Ride, because Kyle coming into the showdown this year, when we did the podcast with him 2 or 3 weeks ago, or at Donington, when it suddenly dawned on me that this was only his second 2.5 seasons, because the first season was only 6 rounds long on a Suzuki. Then he did a full season on a BMW. Now he's doing a full season on a Yamaha. Brands Hatch in the summer was only the end of his second season, effectively.
Yeah, and Kyle is, as I've said many times, one of the best riders I've ever seen for natural talent and what that kid can do. Kyle just scrambles his own head too much, and as in this season, you could see it on the BMW because they're not a pig to ride. That's a horrible thing to say. They're a harder thing to ride, the Yamaha. But then when Kyle's going from, I was at like Alton Park at the start of the year or whatever, I could do that lap time, and now I'm nowhere near.
Yeah,
you can try and explain to Kyle till your head's gone bloody blue. Kyle, it's because the tyres are not working at this temperature, mate. So we need to do this. And Kyle's going, no, because it worked like that. And Kyle's head's a funny little headspace, but it'll come because he's only still a baby.
He's only 25.
Exactly. Kyle will win that championship. That will come. I have no. But yeah, Kyle needs to. He needs to chill out a little bit. It looks like he's the most chilled out kid in the world with his persona. But then if you're in a garage with him, as you will
his eyes give him away.
Brains just like...
There's always something going on in there.
He's
a great kid to work with.
Yeah.
Once you understand how he works and what he needs, it's been a great year to be press officer at OMG for two very different characters.
Yeah.
And to get the best out of them both. You know that Brad will do anything you ask him to. And then he says, I'll put a fucking invoice in, Chief, all right? Yeah. Like, okay, that's a shaky bit coming out of you. But Brad, with Kyle, if you go up to him, and I wouldn't go to Kyle and go for a fist bump with him for the socials, because he'll turn around and quite say, I'm not a performing monkey. I'm here to ride my bike.
Yeah.
So I don't ask him to do that.
Yeah.
And I do the bare minimum with Kyle because he likes to ride. He's there to ride his bike.
Yeah.
I'll promote him until the cows come home, but you get the fist bump off Brad, and they're just two completely different characters.
Yeah.
But it's been great to see them both together on track and having both in the showdown to show the progression of BSB.
Yeah, and I mean, Kyle and Brad have rode together since they were babies.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
And I know that there'll be a little part of Kyle sometimes that's looked across that garage and gone, why is he so happy and why is he finding it so fucking easy and I'm struggling my nuts off here?
Because he did make it look easy at times.
Yeah, even to a point where Kyle borrowed Brad's leathers and they were sponsored by different leather manufacturers because Kyle decided at Alton Park his leathers were too tight and they didn't fit.
They were.
And maybe they were, maybe they weren't.
No, they were.
All right. Sorry, Kyle.
100% they were.
Yeah, well, you should lose some weight then and stop being so fat. My mate.
Straight into arm pump surgery straight after Alton Park.
All right, yeah. But he did. But I mean, it's
they
just
were too tight and too short.
All right, yeah. But you can just imagine Kyle looking over it, and because Brad is the archetypal chilled out. He could, if it were 1976, he'd have had a Benson in his gob. Like, yeah, whatever. No matter what he's thinking inside, it's just the thing that he portrays and how chilled he is.
You could never really understand what he's thinking, because his outward persona is so chilled out.
Yeah.
And to cope with the pressure the way he did going into Brands Hatch, he just approached every weekend exactly the same way. And Shakey's had a massive effect on that. We know that. He's been invaluable. I don't think Brad would have been able to do what he could do without Shakey's input.
Yeah, I said to Duncan in commentary, I said there'll be one way that Brad goes to Brands Hatch and it will be to attack it. There'll be no finish where you need to finish to win the race. Go and try and win the race because it's what Shakey always did. And I knew that you could see that coming through in Brad.
Yeah.
But in a slightly different way because Brad's a little bit more dull. But I knew as soon as the visor goes down, Brad becomes the racer. And I knew he would go for it.
Put 0.6 to him in FP1.
Yeah, I knew he would attack it that way and not just go, right, I need 2 points, I'll finish 14th or whatever. So yeah.
The highlight for me, that third sector at Cadwell Park, that was the highlight of the season for me. In his qualifying lap on his Super Pole, 0.2 down going over the mountain and 0.3 ahead at the start line.
Unbelievable. So that was the Super Pole weekend, was it? We got Super Pole back.
That's
and me and Duncan got to do it, and I told him it was on my bucket list thing, because I've never got to do it with Fred. Okay. Or actually we had got to do it with Fred, but Fred was like, right, it's great you're in the commentary box, Michael. Do not speak.
It's my job.
It's my job. When the music starts, you stop. Well, yeah, I can't say it. And Fred would never let you in. But me and Duncan did it together, and it was absolutely fantastic.
You've done very well together, you two, this season.
And the amount of cock-ups that we made on that Super Pole made it even better, because I was like, they're 0.7 up here. Glenn's going to walk it.
Yeah.
And the
Brad
it looked like it. But, Brad was 0.2 down. I was like, there's no way that the Yamaha, with the way it works, is going to go from the mountain onto the start-finish straight and
pull back 0.5.
It was done, and he just went. think I actually shut up for the first time in my life. I was like, what the
That's not like you.
fucking hell has happened there, mate?
Oh, it was incredible.
It was, yeah, I don't know what he did. I think he cut the grass. I don't care what anyone says, because there was a bit where the camera went up in the air.
There was a bit.
But just unbelievable. And I hope to God that they do a few more of them Super Bowl things next year. Who is it? I was listening to a podcast with Keith Ewan and Stuart Higgs that was done over at the TT, I think.
Oh, okay.
A BBC Sems podcast.
Yeah.
And Keith Ewan brought up this thing, and I spoke to Keith at Brands about this, and Keith mentioned to Stuart, he said, what about an evening race? Now, in the summer, we get sunlight till about 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we do.
Now, and there are certain circuits that have got a license where we can run till 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, you got no noise restrictions.
So, what about a superbike race at about 6:30 in the evening? So, say Friday night, everyone finishes work, they can fly down there, and you get that evening race, just as it would be.
10-lapper, sun going down.
Awesome.
That's
not
cool.
an half-past. Yeah, I thought it was a really good idea. I mean,
I like that idea.
You've got the issues of red flags and stuff kicking in, but you've got enough time between 6:30 and 8 o'clock to try and get the race in. I was just like, that seems like a good idea. I mean, that's the way to watch a race.
I love
6:30, mate. Go on, lads.
That's not like you.
Yeah. So that was what
mate.
We're going to have to get this wrapped up,
let's. It's 6 o'clock already. Let's wrap this up. Final word to our mate, our colleague. We're going to miss him, but what a great kid. Life goes on. We're going to carry him forward, and if everybody can make the most of every minute of what they do, and what did Dom say at the service is that make sure you do the best of what you do, because guarantee when you meet him again, he's going to ask, what have you done with your time?
Absolutely.
So we're saying it with a smile on our face, and I've done a couple of quiet reflections on the show over the past couple of weeks, but we're smiling, we're going forward, and we're carrying him. I'll leave the last words to you.
Yeah, just reiterating what you say. Absolutely. I had the honour of doing the podcast. I had the honour of being his friend. I'd spoke to him so much throughout this season and congratulating him and trying to offer him any help that I could, because it was his first season on his own bike, and I've been there and done that, and he doesn't. He wanted to listen, Chris. He'd take everything in, and he'd always have a smile on his face. He's absolutely the guy that everybody wants to be, and we'll all miss him dearly. We all carry him in his hearts now, and we, it's that tonight we remember, for tomorrow we race. He will carry on with us all forever. And Godspeed, Chrissy, and thank you ever so much to you for having me on again.
Thanks a lot, Michael Howarth. We'll catch you again soon. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, mate.
As we promised at the top of the show, next week it'll be the first of hopefully a couple of shows from the Most Cycle Live at the NEC, and then it's the slippery slope to the day the big fella drops down your chimney and unloads his sack all over your living room. So until next week, look after each other. Bye-bye.